Hi again, everybody. Welcome to Consciousness Rising Zimbabwe and Beyond. My name is Tania Norris. I'll be your host again today. And just to tell everybody who's not living in Zimbabwe, I'm sitting here in Zimbabwe, it's sweltering hot October's day. But it's the most magnificent, beautiful time of the year. You've got the jacarandas in bloom, bougainvilleas all over, and it is just truly such a gift. And then you get these beautiful orange sunsets coming through the jacarandas, this giant orange ball that just hangs in the sky just at sunset, and it's just beautiful. I wish I could take all of that and just channel it through this computer so that everybody could share in that with us at this time of the year. But I can't do that, so you have to just take my word for it. So before we get started on our ufology number 3 series, I just want to explain to people who are not familiar with the channel. Antonella, my co-host, and myself, we decided to put this together because, you know, everybody thinks that Zimbabwe is like the boondocks of the planet, okay, and nothing goes on here. And that is just so not true. In fact, it's the absolute opposite. In Zimbabwe, we've got the most gifted, talented, inspirational, innovative people. And anybody that you find all over the world, no matter what their expertise or however many degrees they've got, whoever you find there, you're going to find the same thing here. And personally, I think that we've got maybe even more gifted. You know, the thing is, when you live in a place that's not necessarily first world, where we've got shopping malls and all of that stuff, we can actually focus on things that are meaningful. And, you know, a lot of the problems that we face are real life problems. So, and I think because of that, we've got a real salt of the earth, real people who know how to connect with the earth, know how to connect with other people. So we're extremely rich when it comes to resources and having good people on the ground. And I just think it's important that we bring those people to you. So if you are living in this country, don't sit and fantasize about how, oh, I need to go to Joburg. Oh, I need to go, when I travel, I need to go and see whatever kind of a specialist, whether it's some kind of an alternative healer, psychologist, mental health expert, women's health expert, whatever you want. You don't need to do that because you've got all of those people right here. So we have a whole, already interviewed quite a lot of people on many topics, and I actually made a little list here of people that we've already interviewed. So not all of these things might be your cup of tea, but some of that will be, and certainly moving forward, there's always going to be interesting people popping up. So it's really worth your while just to stay in the loop, see who is around, what is going on in Zimbabwe. We also bring to you projects that are coming up, so things of interest. We've had people like the urban farming people, first step program that goes on here. We've got people who share their stories and stories of personal mastery. We've had Zanup, which is our Zimbabwe and natural healing practitioners. We've got Stillhaven Project in Bulawayo. We've got Ancient Science of Soul Travel, the Psychology of Eating, Naturopathy, gosh, and the list goes on and on. We also include in there some conspiracy things, and of course the ufology, because we also like to be on the alternative side and the fringe side of life as well. So, you know, not everyone's interested, but some people are interested. So please subscribe to the channel, share it, because like I said, not everything's going to be your cup of tea, but a lot of it will be your cup of tea. Anyway, so back to what are we doing today? What are we doing today is our 3rd episode of our ufology series. And again, if you've missed the first 2 episodes of that, please just subscribe, go back. We have in the 1st and 2nd series, I brought to you, what I do is I interview people that have had experiences themselves, plenty of activity, UFO activity going on in Zimbabwe, currently and historically as well. We also talk to you about the ancient history of Zimbabwe and the energy points, the ley lines that are all over the planet, and how Zimbabwe is situated there, and how that affects us. Again, affects our societies historically and currently. And what else? Oh, I also talk about disclosure, and where are we up to with disclosure. So that's on the planet, not just here in this country. And Val Ross was a very interesting person that I interviewed in the second series as well, who had many, many experiences over the years. So today we have got for you two families, Squire's family, and then another lady, I'm not going to mention her surname, but her name is Les. And both of these families have been having experiences for many, many years. Now, the interesting thing to mention is that why is it that we find that a lot of experiences happen within families? And well, there are many, many theories about that. And one of the theories, of course, is, and when I say interfered, I mean, why are people abducted, or people who claim to be abducted? Why do they have visitations? Why do they have probes put in them and have experiments done on them? So, and there's many theories out there. What we do have evidence of course, are the actual probes. I mean, that's been happening for many, many years. A lot of doctors are discovering these little metal probes in people that not really earthly, so to speak. You know, the material that they're made of and the makeup that they're made of, that is something you can just go on the internet and research, because there's a lot of information out there on that. So why? You know, this is always the big question. Why are people getting interfered with, and especially in families? And so the consensus there is that it has something to do with the DNA, people's DNA, that it runs in the bloodlines of a family. So for some reason, these extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings are interested not just in you, but in the family. What actually happens, why, we don't know. Some people are talking about a hybridization program where they're using our DNA to experiment. Some people say it's because maybe their races are dying out and they need our DNA to experiment so that they can carry on living, or be able to live, mix up their DNA so that they are able to live in our environment here on the earth. So we don't know really why that happens. I just thought it's interesting to mention, because we're interviewing families, why they would be visiting families, you know, why families all have these similar experiences. So first up, we have got Abby and Atherton Squires, who are both teachers. Atherton's been a teacher here for many, many years. And I'm going to now let you watch their story, which is quite fascinating. And Abby very recently had an experience as well. So let's go straight on to that. Welcome to Abby and to Atherton. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we're very excited to hear what you have to say about all of your... Hi there, hi there. Sorry, there's a slight delay on my side here. So anyway, just to let you know, I've already done introductions. So what I'd like to do maybe is to just get straight into the conversation. Abby, I know that you very recently had a sighting. Maybe you can tell us about that,
yes,
that sighting and where it was, and maybe give us some detail, the date and all of that.
Okay, so it was on the 26th of July. I was driving
2020,
home from
2020, this year.
Yes, this year, 2020. I was driving home from Harare. I was on it's a dirt road from the main road to our house. I was on the dirt road, and it's very flat land, so you can see quite far into the horizon. I saw what I thought at first glance was actually a white aeroplane. And I looked up, and obviously being in lockdown, I knew there were no aeroplanes. So I thought, oh, that's strange. Maybe the aeroplanes that Charles Prince are flying. Anyway, the more I looked at it, I realized it wasn't actually moving. It was hovering and staying in the same place. So I looked at it a bit harder, and obviously I'm still driving and getting closer to it. And the more I looked at it, it started becoming clearer what it was. And I realized that, jeepers, this is a craft. This is so exciting. My initial reaction, it wasn't fear. I wasn't scared. I was excited. So I was kind of debating, should I stop? Should I get my phone out my handbag? Should I drive and try and get closer to it? So I decided to drive and try and get closer to it. And the dirt road was very bumpy and I was going quite fast. And I was getting closer and closer. And it was about, I would say, the height of a telephone pole, sort of just above a telephone pole, because that's how I was working out that it wasn't moving. Because I saw in relation to the telephone pole, it was hovering.
Right.
So I went, obviously the closer I got, the more clear it got, and I stopped in a place, because obviously I didn't want to get too close, just in case I scared whatever it was. And I stopped the car close enough, reached down into my handbag, got my phone, turned on my camera, and as I lifted my phone to take a picture, it had disappeared, it had gone. So yeah,
wow.
but
Okay,
it was very exciting.
Let me just say, I have got a picture that somebody drew for you. I'm going to try and screen share with that.
Oh, here we go. We can see it.
We got
it. Can see it.
Oh, you got it. Okay. So, Abby, how big would that have been? Do you think? Obviously, distance is a difficult thing to judge, but you can't guesstimate how far away that was from you.
How far away it was from me?
Because I mean, there's quite a bit of detail. There's quite a bit of detail on this picture, so you must have been seen it quite clearly.
Yes. Yeah. So there was obviously a lot of adrenaline running at the time, but I would say about 1 kilometer away, not even less, probably 800 meters. Okay. Definitely not more than a K.
And how big was it when you were looking at it? Could you say?
I was about this when I could see it. It was about the size of like a small car, like a sort of like a Fit, like a Honda Fit, that sort of size.
All right.
Obviously thinner, but that's like the size of a small car. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it's quite interesting, and also the fact that it's got a lot of angles. It's extremely angular.
Yes, that did strike me, and it was white, and the windows were like black, but like kind of tinted. Windows, it was very angular and white, like funny. And I had no idea that bend at the bottom. Even when my sister was drawing it for me, I don't know what that was for. That bend, that L shape, very weird.
Well, there have been quite a few reports on these angular type craft. Even like tin can shaped, like Coke can shaped, even like earth moving equipment shaped, extremely angular. So that throughout history, there have been quite a few of those reports. So I think it just challenges our brain, because we've got this idea of it having to be smooth edges and, sort of saucer shaped, or, whatever our brains are geared up to think. So, okay, well, that's quite a fascinating thing. So just to go back a little bit, so you said you were driving down a dirt road. This is on the way to Lorfordia School, where obviously you both teach at and live there. And Lorfordia School is that Mount Hamden way?
Yes, so you carry on Mount Hamden on the Lomagandi Road, and then at Nyabira, which is a couple of k's before the first toll gate, you turn left, and it's 11 k's down that dirt road.
Okay, right. It's just for other people to get to know what that sort of location is. Yes. So now, we were chatting before we started doing this interview, and you were both telling me that you as a family have had several experiences and several sightings, and I think that that's a very pertinent and something relevant that we should discuss. So Atherton, maybe you can tell us when you possibly had your first sighting, or you were aware that it was a sighting. Just give us a little bit of background into your family experiences.
Okay, so about August 2012, I think this is when we very first really started knowing what was going on with this, with UFOs and that. We were visiting at Metopus, and it's quite funny because a lot of these sort of coincide with with what we have been doing the day before. We had, that day had been to Inanki Cave. I don't know if you know Inanki Cave in Metopus.
I think I've been there myself, yes.
Okay. So Inanki Cave has got these most unbelievable paintings.
Yeah, I
And
have
we
seen
had
them.
visited
I remember seeing that, the
Yes.
UFO paintings.
Yeah,
That's
correct. So we had gone there for the second time now, but we with totally different view of what we were seeing on the paintings. And my wife, who was very knowledgeable on this, started explaining to all of us what these were, and it wasn't what was in the books, etc. And so we were becoming acutely aware that these were, extraterrestrials, craft that had come from another planet, etc. That evening, when we were sitting at our lodge in Metopus, as a whole family, is where we had probably a half-hour sighting of what we firmly believe was a UFO. And this craft kept on sort of rising above the horizon and then going down, and then rising above the horizon and going down. And it would sort of move positions a little bit, but it kind of stayed in the same place, but going up and down, and then suddenly went away.
And what was that looking like? Was that just an orb or a light, or what was it?
No, it was more of
Was it like a big ball?
a big ball.
Oh, really?
It was like a big round ball that was going up and down.
And was that was before the days of drones, I take it?
Oh yes, yeah. There was, I mean, and it was quite big. If you on the horizon, if you had to sort of sort of bring it forward, I would imagine it would have been quite a large craft.
Okay, and what year was that? Do you think? Did you say what year it was?
That was August 2012.
Okay, right. Okay. And then after that, tell us some things, because I know you've been living at Tilfordia for quite a while. Have you had a few sightings there?
So I think after that, that just went in the background. And then 4 years ago, we were on holiday again in Kapula. So that's 2016 August, and we were sitting on the out in Wangi. And looking at the stars, and suddenly we saw this craft, and it was amazing because we all saw it. There were 5 of us there, of our family, and we saw this craft. It was changing color from red, green, and blue, and it would move across the sky at rapid speeds. So it would go to the west and then stop, and then it would go up to the north and then stop, and then go east, and then it'll go diagonally. And it was huge spaces over the sky that it would be moving, and big distances. And then we started really realizing, actually, these are craft that we're seeing. So that was August 2016. And that I realized, no, I've got to start looking at what's going on in the sky. So what I often do at night is I take out a sort of a chaise lounge thing. It's those things you put by side the pool and lie down. And then I look up in the sky, and I often do that at night, and I've seen the most amazing sightings. Not very close, but I do see the similar sort of things that have seen in the past.
Right. And you seem to be completely unafraid.
Oh no! I actually tell the family I'm going out. If I don't come back, I've gone.
And you're hoping that they're going to take you. Is that it?
Well, if it's good people, I don't mind going.
Yeah, I don't. There's that thing. Okay, yeah. And then you were also telling me another interesting story of, well, Abby was actually saying something about a dream. A dream that coincided. Do you want to just tell us about that dream, Abby? But before I do that, let me just explain to people that a lot of communications with extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings do take place in the dream. I could say maybe the more etheric bodies. Okay, so we think you're having a dream, but they're not dreams. And very often, and I know for myself as well, I know very clearly the difference between a dream and an experience. Okay, and I think most people have had those, whether they figured it out or not, I'm not sure. So, Abby, you were telling me about one of those dream / experiences. So could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I dreamed that in my dream, at the time it was just my mum, dad, and I at home. My sisters one was at school, one was in Harare. So it was the three of us. And in this dream, we were at the base of Mountain Nyangani. I could even take you to the exact place in the dream where we were. And we were there with a whole lot of other people. And I was under the impression that there were these sort of monks. They were African men in brown cloaks with hoods over their head. And they had brought us, there were about 20 or so people, they had brought us to the foot of this mountain. And I wasn't afraid of the monks, but above us in the sky were these big black crafts that were spinning, and they had blue and red lights. And that, when I saw that, that filled me with a lot of fear. Anyway, and then suddenly there were all these children, teenagers, and yeah, so they're sort of teenage age to about 8 in front of us. And literally what we had to do is, now these children and young adults were being sucked up by these crafts, and we all who had been bought by these monks, we instinctively ran to these children, and all of us started like saving them, pulling them away from them being sucked up. And we just knew what to do. A lot of us some people were using archangels, some people were using chants. We were all just doing different things to pull these children away. And it was hard work. I remember being tired because it was hard. You were fighting against quite a force to pull these young adults and children. Anyway, so I think it was very overwhelming for me because I woke up, my physical body woke up in my bed. And I'd never experienced sleep paralysis ever until this day. I think my physical body woke up before my astral body had got back. So I lay awake in this really stressed state because I didn't know what had happened and what to do, but it was all so real. Anyway, and then the next morning, eventually like half an hour later, I had come back in and I was fine. And then yes, the next morning I told my mum and dad, I said, oh my goodness, I had the weirdest dream. This was happening. And it so happened that at the same time, sort of around 2 o'clock, my mum and dad in their room were woken up by the sound of like, I don't know, you might want to.
It's a good example, a good sort of analogy is a washing machine that's, you know, that kind of whirs at a, you know, it's a bit like that. But it was very loud. But what woke us both, and my wife and I, up was it sounded as though it landed on the roof. There was quite a big clunk on the roof. And then we started hearing this whirring noise. And I did get up to go out to go and see what it was. But by the time I'd got up and to go and look at it gone, there was nothing there.
Yeah. I think you're very brave. I would not have got up to see what that was. You're very brave.
Shane, this has happened 4 times at our home now, the exact same thing.
That was the first time.
That was the first time. I've experienced it twice, but my poor daughter was with a friend on the veranda, sleeping on the couch for the night there, and it happened and it stayed for an hour, and they were just terrified.
Oh my word. Right. So it seems that you as a collective, as a family, keep on having these experiences, and so obviously there's a lot of schools of thought out there, and one of them is that when people do have contact, it normally happens in families. That's right. So, and I think your family can kind of speak to that as an example. Atherton, what do you remember? Do you remember as a child ever being interfered with or taken or anything like that?
Okay, strong memory of when I was about 16 in boarding school, when I was asleep, and again it was like almost sleep paralysis, but something being put up my right nostril. It was something, and it was quite excruciating. And then that's all I can. That is the memory that I have. I don't know if you wanted me to carry on about now that what later on happened.
I think so. I think you should.
I don't know if I should mention names,
Don't.
but
You
I
don't
did,
have to mention any names.
okay,
But
I eventually realized actually that with a lot of things that had gone on in my life, from my personal experience, I think I had a lot of abuse as a youngster, physical, sexual abuse, and I kind of feel that it was these people, and that was part of the probe, was to kind of halt a path that I should be going on. So I went to go and see a lady in Harare to try and clear these things out of me, particularly this memory that I have of something going up my nose. And I went to go and see her, and then she said, yes, I'll work on you in the next couple of days. 2 days later, about 7 o'clock in the evening, I collapsed on the floor in the house with the most excruciating pain going up my nostril into my brain. And it kind of was reminiscent of what I had as a 16-year-old. And then my wife quickly phoned this lady in town and said, this is happening. And she said, oh, actually, I'm right at the moment doing this work to try and remove, and I've just removed an alien probe from his brain.
Right.
So, and yeah, that's the kind of the very first experience I have of that as a young child.
And since that probe has been removed, is there anything that you felt anything different?
Oh, I don't have listen, before I did have a bit of a fear, but I don't have this, what I see at night, spacecraft or anything like that. In fact, it's quite exciting.
Well, let me tell you something really interesting. We're going to get together and do a night watch soon as this weather warms up a bit. So we were actually looking for a venue. Yeah. Maybe we can all come out to you to visit with you. I don't know what your COVID restrictions are, or maybe we can all get together and do some kind of a night watch.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Because I think there's about 10 of us now that are planning to get together.
Okay.
Yeah. And okay, so but how do you feel about that? Do you feel that these people that have been in contact with you and interfering with you, do you think that they're good guys, bad guys, indifferent? What do you think?
I get the impression that they're good. I certainly get that impression. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that they're good, particularly. Obviously, my first experience wasn't good.
Yeah.
But I think that they are here to do us good, and I think that obviously when they think that the time is right, they will maybe come, and we can actually see who they are.
Right. Well, anyway, again, thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate your time and your efforts and your sharing, and look forward to seeing you at the Skywatch.
Yes, we're very much so, and we've got no COVID restrictions here. So.
Oh, really? Okay, good. Well, super. We will chat after this. Maybe we can set up a date.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Tania.
Super. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks, Atherton.
Thank you, Tania.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So there you have it. That's truly fascinating, unique experiences that they've been having. So thank you very much to them. And I do want to mention that we did have the Skywatch, as you were mentioning there. We had a Skywatch, and it was quite remarkable. We saw quite a few little winks from the universe, lights behaving very differently in the sky. And, really, I have something to say to people, because if anyone asks me again or tells me again about the Skylink, this is Elon Musk stuff, Skylink satellites, okay? I feel like I'm going to faint, because quite frankly, we're not that stupid. We do know the difference between a satellite and something unusual. Okay, satellites certainly do not, we know the trajectory of those. They do not do 90-degree angles. They move at a constant speed. They move in a straight line. It's very, very easy to spot a satellite, and we saw many of them. We also know how Chinese lanterns behave. Extremely easy to spot a Chinese lantern, close up and in the distance. So we had a very successful evening. We do feel like we do need to get some equipment, you know, get proper camera so that we can actually film this stuff, and maybe some night goggles, and yeah, so a couple of things. Oh, a laser pointer. I do have one actually. So I'm going to keep you up to date on how all of our sky watches go. And then, you know, once we've got our act together, then maybe we'll open it up to the public. So anybody who seriously wants to come to a sky watch, you can just inbox me. Underneath this link, there's a WhatsApp link there. You can just WhatsApp me and give me your name and address. And the other thing I'd like to say to people, if any of you have ever had any experiences that you want to share, that you want to talk about, you don't have to go public, but I'm trying to keep a record of all of these experiences. So it'll be very useful for my information, and will certainly for the country's archive. So I would very much appreciate that. Anyway, next up, we have got Les talking about her family experiences. Today I have with me, we're very blessed and gifted to have somebody who's lived in this country for a long time, and her name is Les. And welcome, Les. Thank you so much for coming and joining us and sharing all your experiences with us.
Yeah, thanks, Tania. Yeah, UFOs. I've seen UFOs and had experiences a lot throughout my childhood, and through the adults, being an adult in and around Africa. And firstly, I just want to say that my dad was a pilot, so I grew up around planes. I know the difference between planes, weather balloons, satellites, gliders, all that sort of thing. So I can see instantly what isn't a plane, or the lights in the sky are different, or things like that. Yeah, so I wouldn't say, you know, I've never actively gone and looked for UFOs. They've just appeared to me. And a classic was when I was at school as a teenager. We had to do gym outside because the hall was being used for exams, and we had to go and do our gym exercises outside. And we were doing the lying on our backs, doing bicycles in the air. And I looked up, and there was this massive cigar-shaped craft. Huge, absolutely huge, and it was so big that I could actually see the trapdoor in the
so it was quite close to you.
Craft. But it was close, but it was also far away. So it must have been, you know, another craft. I call them the cigar-shaped ones, in my opinion, another craft. And I mentioned to all the girls around me, I said, "Can you see that?" And they all saw it, and then suddenly it disappeared. So it obviously knew it was being observed, and it cloaked itself. And in fact, in every sighting I've seen, I've had witnesses with me. So it's not like it was just me. There are other people who observed it as well. But yeah, my kids have seen quite a few sightings. They've seen a Bigfoot here in Zimbabwe. Admittedly, they were 12, around that age. We were on a farm, and we had some copies on the farm there, and they went off to go and play a whole lot of them. There were about 5 kids. And then they suddenly came racing back, screaming their heads off, and they said, Mom, you know, we've just seen this huge monster." And they all drew a picture of it. And to this day, I mean, my kids are in their 40s now, and they still, to this day, will draw the same picture and describe it as they saw it. And it was just like a Bigfoot that you see in America or something like that. And I believe they're interdimensional beings. That's why people get... you know, they have brief sightings of them. They can find their fur. They find, you know, a fur in the DNA that is completely different to anything on Earth. But I do believe these creatures are interdimensional. They can just slip back into a different dimension, and this is why no one has ever found them.
I have heard some researchers saying on the Bigfoot topic that there's actually more than one breed. It's more than one type. And that there is very possibly some living here underneath the Earth, and then we have those that are more, say, extraterrestrial or interdimensional.
I would definitely say the one that they saw, it possibly came from the Earth. they were sort of on a flat piece of earth, and there was this fairly rounded kopje, not a tall one. And they said this being just suddenly came over the top of this kopje. It had no neck. The head disappeared into the shoulders. It was massive. They described it as about 7 foot, 8 foot tall, dark brown. Yeah, just didn't appear to be interested in them. It was sort of like wasn't aware that they were there, but they obviously were petrified of it because it was something that
How close were they to them?
Oh,
Was he like on the other copy?
No, they were pretty close. I would say 20, 30 meters. They saw it and just turned and ran. Yeah, as they would.
Well, I admire these people who go looking for these damn things, because I'm thinking, what would you do?
Yeah, exactly. And then we've seen another completely, 2 times actually, I've seen a glass ball, massive glass ball. With the one that we saw and we witnessed, we sat watching it for a good half hour or so, my husband and I. This was in Mutare, in about 87, 88, 1987, 88. My husband called me. My husband is completely disbeliever in UFOs. He says, no, these things don't exist. What he did up until that point. And then he said, come and see this. So we raced outside, and there's this massive glass ball. It literally was transparent. You could see through it, with 3 legs coming out the bottom of it. And then something on the top, but I can't quite remember what it was on the top now, but definitely it had that transparent look about it. So we raced back in, got binoculars, came out, we studied it for a good half hour or so. It just hovered in the sky, really close.
Sort of distance-wise, how far away would that have been?
I'd say, distance is difficult when you're looking into the sky, but probably.
When you say massive, if you had to, as you were looking at it, how big was it? Like that big or that big? Or...
Yeah, I'd say a good beach ball size, probably bigger than a beach ball.
Yeah.
So kilometer-wise, I wouldn't know. And it is difficult to gauge. But we tried looking inside. We tried to see if we could see the bridge with all the UFOs staring down at us, but it was difficult to see inside it. But definitely the material looked like it was glass or a transparent kind of material. And then it slowly started moving off towards Mozambique. And then we heard later, apparently a lot of sightings in Mozambique, and the Mozambican government sent up a MiG to follow it. And apparently this thing just took off and then left the MiG standing. And
is that the same one that was seen throughout Africa, sort of came from the south and all the way up to Mozambique?
I understand there were a lot of sightings on it, yeah. But interesting, that same type of craft was seen over Diggerfold School in Marangera. They had a school fair. There were lots of people outside. The headmaster used to do this toy craft planes, what you call it, model airplanes. He had these flying around, and of course everyone's looking up at the sky, and the next thing someone says, hey, look at that. And there was the exact same round ball with the 3 legs, glass craft, or transparent, just hovering over but that I think was quite high. I didn't see it. My kids saw it again.
Was that the same time, same year? Was that a different sighting?
Probably could have been around the same year, the 80s. Yeah, my kids were at junior school then, so probably around that same time. Yeah.
So the first one that you saw was with you and your husband, and that's the one that went to Mozambique, and then you said you saw it again.
Yeah, the one at Diggerfold was earlier than the one we saw in Mutare. Yeah. But definitely in the later 80s, 86, 87, 88, around that time. Yeah,
there was a lot of activity.
Yeah.
Okay.
The aerial school incident. My kids were friends with children who actually witnessed the aliens coming out of the craft, and they all said they were spoken to telepathically. The aliens themselves were very concerned about the environment of the country, of the world, what we were doing as humans to the world. And she was interesting, fascinating to talk to, the little girl who'd seen the aliens. She said the aliens had come to them as children because they were the same height, and they believed that the children were in charge of the earth. And of course, the teachers, I believe, at the time were in the schoolroom just having tea. I think it was break time, so there were no adults, and all the kids were outside playing. But she said that the aliens had said to her that they thought the children were, because they were the same height, were in charge of things. Yeah.
So aerial school's been fairly well documented, but what hasn't been documented about aerial school was that the days before and after, there were a lot of sightings and a lot of experiences. And so I'm going to do a whole show just on
aerial.
But the surrounding events, because that's something that really was never covered that well.
Yeah, then also in the 90s, we were on a houseboat in Kariba, and I suddenly heard we had just got onto the houseboat. We were unpacking things and making sure everything was okay. We had been moving out for about an hour, also going out into the middle of the lake, and then suddenly my kids came racing. My kids were teenagers then. They came and said, "Mom, we've just seen a UFO." It had just suddenly pulled out of the water and just sped off and disappeared. And
what was that, kind of like more of a disc type thing?
A disc, yeah. That was the classic sort of disc craft that most people see. Yeah, so we have seen quite a diverse range of craft. And then my kids, again, driving around at night, visiting friends, things like that, they've seen the green phosphorus lights pulsing. They said as they were driving down the road on the side of the road on someone's farm, there was this, they couldn't see clearly what it is, but there were definitely this green pulsating lights, completely different to anything they had seen, they knew of. And then also these fuzzy lights, these sort of green or white or yellow fuzzy lights just flashing around. Not big, I forget, they're called something. But they've seen that as well. They've seen quite a few. But I don't believe as a family that I don't think any of us have been visited by aliens. I don't think any of us have been taken up by aliens.
You don't have any memories.
But you don't have memories, you don't know it. And it's nothing I've actively pursued. So it's interesting that I have had so many sightings and also with so many witnesses. So it's not just me on my own. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But now that your children are grown up, and are they living in the country still?
No, they're all in Australia now.
Okay, and just that they carried on having experiences, or
no, nothing in Australia. But admittedly, they live in cities and things like that. But definitely here in Zimbabwe, we did have quite a few.
Anyway, Liz, thank you so much for
pleasure,
coming and
Tania.
sharing those stories with me and us. And if there's anything else that comes up, obviously you let me know.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Okay. Bye. So, more fascinating stories. It just goes on and on and on, doesn't it? Okay, so that is all that I have for you in this series. I am working on doing a whole series on the aerial school. I've got a lot of information, not just about what happened at the school, but a lot of events happened before and after the aerial school event, also in that same area. And so that's going to be quite exciting. It takes time, sorry, to get all information together, so I can't just bash them out like that. But anyway, so that is what the next episode is going to be on. And again, please share this with all your friends. A lot of people are interested in this topic. Even if you suspect that they might be interested, please just help us out here so that we can get our archives together and our records together. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to share that information. So thank you all, and carry on enjoying these beautiful days that we're experiencing at the moment. And until the next time, bye.